Imagine a break room in a typical office. There's a tray of fresh bagels, a knife, and a small wooden box with a slit on top for cash. There's no cashier and no security camera. When an employee takes a bagel and leaves without paying, they are responding to a specific set of hidden forces. We often mistake our moral desires for economic reality. While morality describes how we want the world to work, data consistently reveals a world driven by measurable incentives rather than pure intentions. Human action is driven by a web of hidden strings. An economic incentive might be a fine. A social incentive is the fear of being seen by your peers. And a moral incentive is the internal guilt of doing something you consider wrong. Conventional wisdom about our behavior is usually wrong because it ignores these forces. The experts we trust, from real estate agents to politicians, understand exactly how these incentives function, and they use them to quietly steer our choices. Feldman's bagel box suggests that our behavior is more predictable than we might think. To see how society really functions, we have to look past the surface and identify the hidden incentives driving those choices. In a system with no immediate economic penalty for stealing, many assume that human nature will default to cheating. We expect that without a police presence, a community will eventually descend into theft. Paul Feldman's business provides a massive, unvarnished look at this assumption. He delivered bagels to office parks for over 20 years, leaving an honor system box for payment. He kept rigorous data on every bagel taken and every penny collected. His data shows a baseline that contradicts the darker views of human nature. Even with no one watching, people paid for their bagels 87% of the time. However, this honesty isn't a fixed constant. The payment rate moves up and down across the timeline, fluctuating based on the specific environmental pressures. Honesty appears to respond to the environment. Payment rates rise in small, high-pressure offices where the social incentive of being known is higher, and they drop significantly during the stress of Christmas week or tax day. Feldman's record suggests that honesty is a calculation. People weigh the social and moral costs of theft against the immediate stresses of their day, adjusting their behavior as the invisible pressures shift. We see similar calculations in the world of real estate. The conventional wisdom is that your agent uses their superior knowledge of the market to secure you the best possible price. This relationship is built on information asymmetry. Because the agent knows the inventory and the local trends better than you do, you are forced to rely on their expertise to make the largest financial transaction of your life. The problem lies in the split of the commission. If an agent works harder to get an extra $10,000 for your house, they only personally keep about $150 of that markup. Your incentive is to maximize the price. Their incentive is to close the deal and move to the next one. Sales data confirms this conflict of interest. When selling their own houses, real estate agents keep them on the market 10 days longer and sell for over 3% more than the houses they sell for their clients. Agents use their information advantage to create leverage. They use coded language like well-maintained to signal the age of a house to savvy buyers. Or they share stories of a tanking market to convince a nervous seller to accept the first decent bid that comes along. When an expert's economic incentives aren't aligned with yours, their specialized knowledge can quickly become a tool for their benefit rather than your own. We invest immense emotional energy into the belief that specific parenting techniques drive a child's success. We assume that reading every day or limiting television are the primary factors in a child's academic performance. To test this, economists looked at the Early Childhood Longitudinal Study, which tracked the academic progress of thousands of children across the United States. When we map common parenting activities against test scores, we find a randomized scatterplot. The data shows no correlation between high scores and actions like reading to a child daily, staying in an intact family, or moving to the suburbs. However, look at what happens when we map those same test scores against parent demographics. The data forms a sharp upward trend. The only factors strongly correlated with a child's success are what the parents are, specifically their level of education and their socioeconomic status. The data clarifies why children with many books at home perform better, even if their parents never actually read to them. The books are not the cause of the intelligence. They are simply an indicator of the parent's own education and status. We often ignore these underlying demographic factors, choosing instead to focus on manufacturing success through parenting techniques that the data shows have little impact. The bagel man, the real estate agent, and the obsessive parent all point to the same reality. Our world is shaped by hidden data. Surface-level morality and conventional wisdom rarely explain how society actually functions. Relying on comfortable assumptions makes us easier to manipulate. Marketers and experts who understand the math behind our incentives can steer our choices without us ever realizing it. Data is the tool we use to penetrate this deceit. By measuring the forces that experts prefer to keep hidden, we can decode true human motives and see the world as it actually is. The next time you are offered expert advice or told a story about how society works, look for the incentives. Ask yourself who stands to benefit economically from the version of the truth you're being told. Decoding these incentives turns a confusing world of conventional wisdom into logical, measurable responses. It changes your perspective, one string at a time.